I spent the entire month of June in South Korea doing a wide range of research tasks. So today I'm going to tell you about all of the museums and libraries that I went to, all of the historic sites that I visited, and tell you about the 3 different cities that I toured. I originally started this video as a month-long vlog, but looking back at the footage, I am so rambly. And then there were a handful of days when I completely forgot to talk about what I was doing, and then also forgot to debrief those experiences. So think of this video as more of me being a tour guide as I take you through day by day of my 30 days exploring Korea. But before I do, I want to quickly explain why I was in South Korea and what exactly I was researching. So in the summer of 2023, I actually took a preliminary research trip to South Korea to see if I could develop a viable and compelling research project. I had already been interested in Korean culture for a few years by then. I was listening to K-pop, I was also watching K-dramas, and I had also done some minor self-study of the Korean language during that time. I had originally planned on going to South Korea in the summer of 2020, but as we all know, international travel and all of travel had come to a complete halt, and as a result of graduating and moving, I had not then been able to make that trip for another 3 years. And while planning out my summer 2023 trip, I had 2 goals in mind. I wanted to attend the Seoul International Book Festival to learn about children's literature and about the children's literature industry in South Korea and to some extent the rest of the world, as well as visit as many children's libraries throughout all of Korea that I possibly could. Korea has a network of around 100 children's libraries, so I figured that by exploring as many libraries as I possibly could, perhaps some interesting research project would materialize. And I will link the playlist of those research vlogs from the summer of 2023 down in the description box below if you are interested in seeing what I was able to accomplish that first summer. So in between summer 2023 and summer 2025, I began working with a Korean language teacher. I figured that if I was going to be adding Korea as a comparative research site, that I was going to have to become proficient in the language. I also started learning more about Korea's history, about the Korean War. I started reading more children's literature that featured Korean and Korean American protagonists, just so that I can see what kind of representations and depictions of Korean Americanness that were showing up in U.S. children's literature. During this time, I ended up presenting at the Asian American Association conference. I wanted to start putting my sort of kind of preliminary research thoughts out there. That particular conference, I had presented on Everything by Nicola Yoon. But my main purpose in going was to learn from Asian and Asian American scholars and learn about their research, and also learn about what was currently happening in the field. I also started looking up why Korea had so many children's libraries, which I thought was really fascinating in comparison to the US, because generally our children's libraries are embedded within our main libraries, whereas in South Korea, the children's libraries are separate entities. And in addition to that, I also started researching why there was so many images of the Little Prince around South Korea, and why there was so much merchandising in bookstores and trinket stores and stationery stores that had to do with the Little Prince. It was actually going to the Seoul International Book Festival where I realized how many different translations there are of the Little Prince in Korean. And it made me start to question how the Little Prince became such an important image and an important icon within Korean culture. And then, as a result of all that I was processing and thinking about and reading, I had decided that I wanted to write a young adult novel that was going to be a creative outlet for all of my academic research, and that novel was going to be set in Korea. So fast forward to my 2025 trip, I had to think about all of the places that I needed to visit or to revisit as a result of the setting of my young adult novel. I also needed to go back to the children's libraries that I was going to then feature in my research article. And then I also needed to visit the major cities of where statues and images of the Little Prince were embedded within the tourist culture, while also trying my best to take in as much of the Korean language and culture as possible, not only so that I can write a really strong novel, but so that I could also intellectually discuss these objects with understanding. Since I am going to be going through my daily schedule as well as giving commentary on my process, I have the feeling that this is going to be a very long video, so I will make sure to put all of the timestamps below. And just for note, I will be doing a very mini haul at the end, so you can stay tuned for that and or just hop all the way to the end so that you can see which knickknacks I purchased throughout my trip. Now let's get to day one. My first day in Korea was spent at the War Memorial Museum, which is one of my favorite museums in all of Korea. It's such a favorite that I decided to make a key scene from my novel happen at the museum. The museum is located in the Yongsan district, which is where quite a few national museums are also located. The War Memorial, like its name highlights, is a comprehensive retelling of the Korean War, which occurred between 1950 and 1953. I have no recollection of ever specifically being taught about the Korean War in school, so I think that's why I'm so fascinated by the museum, by how interactive and well laid out it is, and how powerful the storytelling is. And of course, that's the same storytelling that inspires me. The scene in my novel begins at the front of the museum, but the main conflict takes place inside, where my protagonist experiences the beauty and heartbreak of the museum for the first time, in the same way that I had experienced it 2 years ago. And honestly, it was just as impactful returning the second time. After spending quite a few hours going through the exhibits again, I went into their library archive to get some writing done on my novel, since the images and feelings were so fresh in my body and in my mind. I spent about an hour writing before going on the guided tour, which I highly recommend going on because the guided tour, despite how much I felt like I had already learned, had given me an insider knowledge, and that was definitely a plus. On day 2, I went to the famous Yonsei University, which is well known because of its top scholarship and also because of its beauty. It's featured in countless K-dramas, and it's also featured in my novel. At least it's featured in the current draft. There have been some new developments with my protagonist, so who knows, the scenes may eventually be cut. But either way, as a huge K-pop fan, I had to go and frolic around the campus for myself.
You got me so bad, you make it all slow down, not getting closer, you're killing me. You got it over, I'm waking alone now, not getting closer. I knew that it was seconds from you losing me, but I just couldn't give it up. And all the times you said you wanted me, when you know we don't get along like we used to. Went along with everything you said and done for me. You'll never love me now, but you'll never know. You got me so bad, you make it all slow down, not getting closer, you're killing me.
I also went to the bookstore to buy myself some memorabilia, and like I said earlier, I will show you all the things that I bought throughout my time in Korea at the end of the video during my mini haul.
I'm so done looking for love so blindly. I know that you were always how you're using me, but I just had enough.
After leaving Yonsei, I went to one of my favorite vegan spots for lunch in Insadong before heading to Kyobo Bookstore to buy myself a copy of The Little Prince.
Love me now, but you'll never know. You got me so bad, you make it all slow down, not getting closer, you're killing me.
There were so many different copies of The Little Prince. It took me forever to decide, but if you follow me on Instagram, you'll have already seen which version I bought.
So done running around, I'm so done looking for love so blindly. You got me so bad, you make it all slow down, not getting closer, you're killing me. You thought it's over, I'm waking alone now, not getting closure. So done running around.
I had a very early start to day 3. I had booked a tour to the DMZ and I needed to be at Myeongdong Station by 7 a.m. I ended up getting there a little earlier than expected, so I walked around and enjoyed the very quiet morning. I booked my tour through Klook. It was the DMZ Adventure Suspension Bridge Boat Voyage Day Tour, and it took about 6 to 7 hours with transportation. The tour focused on the Korean War history, so I was able to experience the physical space of the war for the first time.
어디서부터 참을 수 있을까?
If you've seen my book review video where I talk about Brother's Keeper by Julie Lee, it's one of my favorite middle grade books. I highly recommend that you read it if you haven't. It was Lee's words that kept ringing in my mind during this whole tour, and I highly recommend reading it and booking a tour to the DMZ so that you have a better understanding of Lee's purpose for that novel.
예로부터 가장 먼 내 마음이 또다시 철없이 널 향하지 않게 far away 한참을 헤매고 찾아왔던 네가 그렇게 반가울 수 있었을까? I don't know what to do. I can't wait for you anymore. 이제 내게 남은 인사를 건네줄게.
Food. Everyone, army training places, take a look. So normally you see the soldier here, but today is a Sunday. Sunday is a no training. So gun training session.
The hardest part of the tour was the tunnel, so be prepared. It was so steep and I'm tall, so I had to crouch down the whole time. And because it's so cramped, there aren't phones allowed or backpacks allowed. So when you get to the end of the tunnel, you can see a very quick glimpse of North Korea. And so this is the last stop of the tour, which is the observation deck, where you can see the North Korean flag and where there is this village called the Propaganda Village. I'll let you hear it in a second, but there is also music blasting towards North Korea. And this was a few days before the Korean presidential election, and since then President Lee has been working on a sound truce between the two countries, so I believe the music has stopped. So it's really interesting looking back at this footage to see that this could have been one of the last times in which we could hear the music, which makes it a very historic moment. After the DMZ tour, I went to Itaewon to visit YIS, which is the Yongsan International School of Seoul. Just think of it like the Kiss in EXO Kitty. Because my protagonists go to an international school, I wanted to look around the neighborhood to get some additional inspiration. And then after that, I hopped on a bus to Namsan Tower. For any K-drama girlies, you already know how iconic Namsan Tower is for any romantic scene, and since I am writing YA contemporary romance, I had to make sure that I wrote a romantic scene in my novel at Namsan Tower. I didn't go up to the observatory. I definitely will next time. Rather, I just walked around and contemplated life, noting all of these small details to myself that I knew I wanted to highlight in my novel. The next day was a Monday, and most tourist places are closed on Mondays, plus it was a little rainy. So I made it a writing and rest day, especially since my jet lag was starting to set in. I only left my hotel to go to this vegan restaurant called byTOFU. I had their eggless salad sandwich, and it was so good. On day 5, I headed south to Asan. The 할머니 in my novel lives in Asan because a dear friend from my childhood lives in Asan. So I went there to explore the city with him, and funnily enough, he had a self-drawn image of the Little Prince in his dining room. So that was a fun find. On day 6, I went to the Seoul Art Center, which is located in the Seocho district of Seoul. It is an art hub with music halls and music, art, and design museums and an opera house. And because my novel features students at a performing arts school, I wanted to explore SAC and use the location in my novel as well. I really wanted to go to the Calligraphy Museum, but it was closed, so serendipitously, I ended up at the Gugak Museum, which is the traditional folk music museum, and learned so much about Korean folk music and dance. I love how interactive the museum is, and so I couldn't pass up the opportunity to learn some of the Korean folk dances. On day 7, I went to the National Children and Young Adults Library in Gangnam, which is one of the libraries that I plan on writing about in my article. I did visit this museum in 2023, and this is the library that actually gave me the inspiration to do this research on children's libraries in South Korea. Before my tour, I had a wonderful meeting with the director of the museum where I learned about the museum's history and all about the programming that occurs there. My hope is to be able to partner with the museum one day in order to organize some sort of children's festival or children literature conference there. They have a great program for local up-and-coming children's book authors, as well as a tech space, interactive exhibits, and of course, children's literature from all over the world. I ended my day back at Starfield Library and roamed the COEX Mall until I got hungry. Day 8 was so hot that I had to wait much later in the afternoon to leave my hotel. I ended up visiting the Bongeunsa Temple, which was so beautiful. There were afternoon prayers going on that you could join in on. I took a slow stroll through the grounds, kind of pondering my life again and my research before going to the tea shop and having a cold cup of jujube tea. I ended the day again at Starfield Library because I'm obsessed. The next day, I got up bright and early to make my trek back to Asan to visit my friend and to do some more exploring.
널 바라보며 yeah. 하고 싶은 말
We walked around the city so that I could get a better feel of the community and the city's layout.
언제나 편하게 기대도 돼 네가 원한다면 yeah. 내가 너의 곁에 영원히 옆에서 지켜줄게 언제라도.
We also went to Ginkgo Tree Road where an important scene in my novel occurs, so look forward to that. Day 10, I traveled back from Asan and spent the evening roaming around Hangang. There was a night market and a silent disco, so there were a lot of people there that evening. I ended up doing a lot of people watching while waiting for the rainbow light show.
Yeah. 네 편이 되어줄게. 행복한 날들을 약속할게. 너와 난 그렇게 웃어도 돼 저기 하늘을 봐 yeah. 널 보면 미소 짓는 내가 너만의 빛이 돼줄게 약속할게 짙은 어둠이 드리워도
The next morning, I headed off to a private buchechum class, which is the Korean traditional fan dance. I absolutely loved it. It was one of the hardest dance classes I've taken in a while. But I took it because my protagonist also learns to dance buchechum and I wanted to get the details right. Days 12 through 13 was spent traveling from Seoul to Busan and then exploring Busan. This particular day was my birthday, so I took myself to the aquarium. And this was an interesting day because I was finally able to verbalize the long-term goals of my research in Korea, which essentially is to develop a project which explores children's literary tourism throughout the country. With this new epiphany in mind, I spent the next morning writing at a cafe before heading to the Ami Culture Village, which is where Koreans took shelter during the Korean War. The shanty homes in this village were built on top of an abandoned Japanese cemetery. I did the self-guided walking tour that takes you through the homes and the spaces of the families who had once settled there. I then walked up the hill to Gamcheon Cultural Village, where the most popular statue of the Little Prince is located. I walked through their small museum to learn about the development of Gamcheon Village before walking through the many stores that have so much Little Prince paraphernalia. And because the line was so long for the original Little Prince statue, I decided to go see the newest Little Prince statue. And because he's so new, there were very few of us who were up there taking pictures. So I was able to take lots of pictures with the Little Prince. On my last day in Busan, I went to the Provisional Capital Memorial Hall, which is where the former President Lee Seung-man worked when Busan became the provisional capital of Korea during the Korean War.
들려온 너의 목소리 따뜻한 그 말 조용히 피어난 노란 봄 모습을 보면 괜히 심장이 빨라지고 너랑 걷는 이 길 위에 시간이 멈췄으면 해 눈빛 한 번이면 충분해 그 어떤 말보다 우린 깊게 이어져 지금 이 느낌 그대로 계속 바라볼래 조금만 더 이렇게 걷자 지금이 너무 좋아서 이젠 말해도 될 것 같아 널 향한 맘을 내가 먼저 다가가도 돼 그냥 옆에 있고 싶은 거야 I just wanna be close to you 그냥 이대로 자연스럽게 가끔 말 돌려도 한 번쯤은 웃어줘 괜히 애꿎은 두번 만들었다 놨다 계속 붙어있고 싶다 바짝 넌 아무렇지 않은 척 그게 헷갈리게 만들어 눈빛 한 번이면 충분해 그 어떤 말보다 우린 깊게 이어져 지금 이 느낌 그대로 계속 바라볼래 조금만 더 이렇게 걷자 지금이 너무 좋아서 이젠 말해도 될 것 같아 널 향한 맘을
From there, I walked to Bosu Book Street, which was also an important hub during the Korean War. Since books and magazines were hard to find, this area is where used books could be found and traded. And now it's a busy alley of used bookstores.
보면 천천히 나도 모르게 I just wanna be close to you 지금 이 느낌 그대로
The next morning, I took an express bus to Gwangju, which is one of my favorite cities in the south of South Korea. This is the site of the May 18th democratic uprising that changed the political landscape of the country.
He doesn't need fires, he's got his colors, noticed on and on and on, turning heads to see the colors. It goes on and on and on and on. Stranger says he'll regret his armor. They don't get what it's like to be no one, no one, no one, no one. We don't wanna be hiding. We don't wanna be fighting. We don't wanna be running from the sun. We don't wanna keep trying.
To learn more about the city of Gwangju, I spent the next day at the Gwangju National Museum, which is located on this beautiful stretch of land.
I'm a drop in the ocean, just a face in a crowd waiting to be seen. Big dreams set in motion. I wanna go where no one's ever been. I would climb the highest mountain. I would dive the deepest sea, just so I could make you feel what I feel. Aiming for the sky. Yeah, I really thought we'd make it. Got my head in the clouds.
The exhibit encapsulates the full history of Gwangju from the Paleolithic era until today.
Up here. The world from up here, from up here.
There was a new exhibit being installed on the day that I went, so there was a section of the museum that was closed off. So I definitely want to go back to be able to see the sections that I missed.
Go ahead, call me crazy. I always see the good in everyone. Blue-eyed and naive, wow, way up here.
On day 20, I was given a private tour of the Asian Cultural Center, which is also known as the ACC. And this center is on the site of the May 18th uprising. My docent, Amy, was wonderful to speak with, and honestly, the ACC is now one of my favorite sites to visit. It is also where the Children's Play Library is located, which is one of the other libraries that I am researching. The next morning, I took a bus an hour outside of Gwangju to head to Damyang to see its famous bamboo forest. I spent the morning strolling through the quiet trails.
널 만나기 전 누군 날 위해 노래한 적 없어 길어지는 대화 속 중심 못 차린 이 비우고 있어.
The forest was a lot more than just bamboo. Actually, somewhere in the center, there is also an art gallery and restaurants where you can eat and relax.
하늘이 참 예뻐 Yeah you 그 누구보다 사랑스러워 Yeah you 찾아 헤매이던 내 반쪽 I feel so free Oh my sweet baby 널 만나기 전 난 일만 했지 Workaholic lifestyle 매일 지루했지 난 쳇바퀴 위에 성실한 햄스터 너의 등장에 나 비로소는 더 다양한 세상의 색채 언어로 인해 변해가 Cause you 그 누구보다 눈이 참 예뻐 Yeah you 그 누구보다 사랑스러워 Yeah you 찾아 헤매이던 내 반쪽 I feel so free Oh my sweet baby 정민 방 안에서 울려 퍼지는 기타 들려주고 싶어 내 진심을 다 이미 알고 있어 너의 옆자리 주인은 나
As you go deeper into the forest, there is a model folk village that I ended up having completely to myself.
I feel so free Oh my sweet baby Cause you 그 누구보다 눈이 참 예뻐 Yeah you 그 누구보다 사랑스러워 Yeah you 찾아 헤매이던 내 반쪽 I feel so free Oh my sweet baby
I spent my last day in Gwangju at the May 18th National Cemetery, where those who were killed during the protests were laid to rest. The cemetery was built in 1997, and every May there is a memorial service held at the cemetery. On the grounds, there is an interactive museum that details all of the atrocities that happened during the 10 days of the protest. On the property, there is also a memorial hall and a portrait dome, as well as art and statues. There is also a place where visitors can rest and an information center located at the front of the cemetery. The next morning, I left Gwangju and took an express bus back to Seoul, and then later that afternoon, I took a local bus into Gangnam to visit the former Big Hit building. And this was during BTS Festa, so it was nice to do something festive during that time. I then went back to Myeongdong Cathedral and walked around as the sun was setting before heading back to my hotel. And because my hotel was located a block away from Cheon Stream, I ended up walking there every night. I spent the entirety of the next day at the National Museum of Contemporary Korean History, which made it into my top 5 museums in Korea. I ended up going back there the next day because even the fact that I was there for about 5 or 6 hours a day before, I hadn't been able to complete the whole museum. And the tour that I was taking, the SBS Tour, started at that museum. So I was able to finish looking at the rest of the exhibits.
You got me sober, you make it all slow down, not getting closer, you're killing me. You thought it's over, I'm waking alone now, not getting closure. I knew that it was seconds from you losing me, but I just couldn't give it up. And all the times you said you wanted me, when you know we don't get along like we used to. Went along with everything you said and done for me. You'll never love me now, but you'll never know.
For the SBS tour, we also went to Hiker Ground and ended with a live taping of the SBS's The Show. Photos and videos weren't allowed during the live taping, but it was the night that Kang Daniel won, and I recommend that if you love K-pop to definitely take the SBS tour.
So blindly, I know that you were always how you're using me, but I just had enough. And every time you been done for me. You'll never love me now, but you'll never know. You got me so bad, you make it all slow down, not getting closer. You're killing me. You thought it's over, I'm waking alone now, not getting closer.
So the next day was the birthday of my protagonist, and I wanted to do something special. This particular cafe is a renovated cafe, and it is the birthplace of King Sejong. So I went there to have a very sweet breakfast before heading to the National Palace Museum. I did end up getting to see the changing of the guard, which was a really cool experience since I am obsessed with Korean historical dramas.
군호와 수문장패를 통해 서로의 신분을 확인하고 굴레를 주고받습니다.
The gate guards are now checking their identification with passwords and ID tags.
군이 적용한 군복은 조선 전기인 15세기 복식을 재현한 것으로 문헌고증을 통해 제작되었습니다.
The actors are wearing the costume.
생겼나 왜 생겼나 요다지고 깨놈에 생겼나 왜 생겼나 왜 생겼나 요다지 곱게도 왜 생겼나 무새 풀무 돌풀무 사람의 간장을 다 녹여내누나 내 사랑아
Day 27 was another long day. I took a tour to Petite France, which essentially is a themed park dedicated to the Little Prince. There have also been some famous K-dramas filmed here as well. Because it had rained earlier in the day, it was actually really lovely and cloudy, and there were barely any people there at the time. There was a small museum where I was able to see some of the original sketches from the novella. And so if you love seeing all things The Little Prince, I recommend going to Petite France. After Petite France, we headed to Nami Island, where there are 2 children's libraries and a children's illustration museum that I wanted to visit. Nami Island is where the International Children's Book Festival happened in May. And my hope is to be able to attend the festival one of these years. Nami Island is also where there are so many Korean movies and variety shows filmed here because of all of the gorgeous nature. On day 28, I went on my favorite tour so far because I absolutely love K-dramas. I had to go on the MBC Tour. MBC is the most popular K-drama network where so many well-known shows have been produced. On the tour, they took us through the editor's room and to the script reading room, where we were also given a script of one of the K-dramas that were being filmed that week. We were also able to walk through the different sets and the music stages, as well as the storage room where they keep all of the set pieces from different dramas. If you are a fan of Korean television, you have to do this tour. For the last 2 days of my trip, I stayed in Incheon because I really wanted to go to the National Museum of World Writing Systems, which opened shortly after my last trip.
I wanna live your life. I wanna dream your dreams. Lick the moons, catch them stars in the night.
There were a lot of interesting artifacts that were showcased in the early writing systems of different cultures like Greek and Arabic and Korean. But honestly, it wasn't as extensive as I had imagined because of the size of the space. The size was much larger than I thought the exhibits were. It took me a little over an hour to go through all of the exhibits.
How can you seem like you are? But when I don't win, I do the same, I'm a sinner. I wanna sing the melodies, wear my heart on my sleeve.
And when I was passing by the last exhibit, I couldn't help but see the image that reminded me of the Little Prince. Perhaps he was just following me everywhere. Yay! So we have made it to my last day in Korea. So this was the day that I was actually flying out, but my flight wasn't until the evening. So after checking out of my hotel, I roamed around Incheon. It was a really hot day, and since it was a Monday, nothing was open. So I just braved the heat and took in the gorgeous scenery and reflected on my last moments in Korea.
I do the same, I'm a sinner.
Okay, thank you for sticking around. It is now time for my mini haul. What you do need to know about me is that I am a magnet collector. I have magnets from libraries and museums and botanical gardens, from countries and cities that I've visited over the past decade plus. So most of this mini haul is just me adding to my magnet collection. The first magnets that I bought were from the DMZ. I actually bought 2 magnets. This particular one had some of the sites that I had visited when I was there, so I wanted a record of that. And I thought that this pink was so cute. The second magnet that I got at the DMZ is a magnet that honors the comfort women who were trafficked during the Korean War. And this particular magnet is a replica of one of the statues that you can see when you're visiting the DMZ. The next magnet I got is from Busan. It is of the Little Prince. I already have a different magnet of the Little Prince that I got the last time, but that magnet has the Little Prince with the fox, and I really wanted a magnet of the Little Prince and his rose. Plus, the colors are so vibrant on this one that I could not pass it up. Also, speaking of the Little Prince, I had a dream about these earrings that featured the Little Prince, except that I hadn't seen them anywhere. But I kid you not, the next day, I found the Little Prince earrings. It was so incredibly serendipitous that I, of course, had to get them. Also, the earrings that I'm currently wearing, I don't know if you can see them, I had bought because I couldn't find Little Prince earrings, and this felt very Little Prince aesthetic, so I had purchased myself these earrings as well. In the video, you saw that I went to the Yonsei bookstore, and this is actually the sweater that I ended up buying. I don't even have an SDSU sweater, but yet I have a Yonsei sweater. Perhaps I'm manifesting being able to teach at Yonsei one of these semesters in the future. Who knows? This could be the sweater that I wear when I teach at Yonsei, hopefully sometime in the future. I also bought myself a pair of Yonsei magnets because the school colors are blue and white. And since my sweater wasn't in the school colors, I also wanted to get something in the school colors as well. The last magnet that I got for myself is the Korail magnet, and this is the exact train that takes you to Asan, which you saw in the vlog. For these next purchases, I do have to start off by giving a disclaimer that I am BTS ARMY, but there are a handful of other K-pop groups that I support, and so I wanted some pins that I can use to decorate my bag because I am going to KCON this year and wanted to show off all of the groups that I am rooting for this year. I got myself a ZB1 pin because I am a Zeros, and I am excited to see ZB1 for the first time this year at KCON. I know that Boy Next Door performed last year. I was really hoping that they were going to be performing at KCON this year, but I decided to get myself a pin anyway since I am a One-Door. And then I also know that TOUS performed at KCON last year, right? Was that last year? And even though they're not performing at KCON this year, because I am also a 42, I wanted to get myself a pin as well. And the very last thing that I purchased was a purchase from Kyobo bookstores. I wanted to get myself a Korean translation copy of The Little Prince, and this is the one that I had decided on. As you can see, I can read the Korean as well as the English translation, which is right above. And there's also a vocabulary guide and some key expressions guide. All the way in the back, there is a full English translation. And then they also have this QR code that will take me to a link so that I can listen to it while I am reading for a fully immersive experience. And so I'm really excited to have this in order to bolster and continue to practice my Korean language learning. So that is all that I have for you today. If you have made it all the way through this research video, please drop a Korean flag emoji if that exists. Thank you for indulging me as I guided you through my 30-day journey. And as always, I will see you in the next video.